think about how much we love Him and try to figure out if we're loving Him enough and doing all the right things to make sure He's still loving us. We don't really spend that much time thinking about how much He loves us. And that's really the whole core of the thing. I got a pulpit present from Six Flags. Who went to Six Flags? Probably. There's a lot of people from Ohio here now because it's freaking cold up there. Uh-oh, what is this? I got my very first cape. You know I'm going to wear it. Wait. There's more. It might get really freaky in here in a little while. Oh, these aren't for me. Oh, wait a minute. This is a boy, isn't it? I know who bought these. No, this is for the grandson who's coming. Not here yet. Pantalones. Well, y'all are easily amused. I mean, yeah, that's too girly for me. I got no excitement over that. Oh, that one says, Pretty Little Hero. And it's a Batman thing on the middle, see? I'm going to try this. Do it or not. No, can't do it. It's choking me right now. Here, Jesus, you be Batman for the day. Batman. Thank you. That's from my mom. Turn over in your Bibles to the Judges. We're going to finish off Judges today. I told you Wednesday, we've been looking at stuff that I would call messed up. You know, when you kind of read the story and you go, that's messed up. And I thought we had seen pretty much everything that you could say that's messed up over when you talked about Jacob and Isaac's family and Jesus' great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandparents, because they were pretty messed up. I mean, it's a wonder Jesus made it at all. Sarcasm, sorry. But then I read this story today. This story is whack. Pardon the pun. You'll get that later. Judges, it'll be over in Judges 19-ish. But first, a few years ago, a Christian female blogger, I was looking her up last night, her name's Glennon Doyle. She posted a picture. It was a picture of herself after her divorce, snuggled up in the arms of another woman, soccer player Abby Wambach. So I'm not bashing anybody, I'm just giving you the facts. You can look them up and check it out. And I'm guessing Glennon knew that the topic would be a pretty big, hot topic. Because anytime you put spirituality and sexuality into something, the comment section just kind of blows up. It's crazy. She got more hits on the comment section of that picture than she had anything else that she had at the time. That was November 2017, or 2016. She got married in 2017. But I want to read just a little snippet of what she said to her online audience. It's been my job for so long as a leader in this community to care deeply about what you think and feel about me and the way I live my life. Now it is my job as a leader not to concern myself too deeply about what you think and feel about me, because what the world needs is to watch one woman at a time live her truth without asking for permission or offering explanation. The most revolutionary thing a woman can do is not explain herself. What I need you to know, and what I know you need to know, is that I am deeply, finally, fine. She continues. Fine through my bones and soul and mind and just every fiber of me. You have the room to feel and react with your truth because I'm so unshakably certain inside of mine. I have officially become a woman who knows who she is and refuses to betray herself. And I wonder what you think about that, because it's a really, really common thing to believe here in our world. I mean, you've heard the phrases, right? Be true to yourself. You do you. You your truth? Feel and react the way you want? And I've thought and I've prayed, and I have to be real to follow this voice that's inside of my heart. Anybody said that one? I'm going to be real, and I'm going to be true, and I'm going to follow the voice within. I'm going to act and be as this voice inside of me says I can be. And I'm going to do what it says I should do. I've said it, right? You've said it, I hope. Well, maybe. Maybe I shouldn't hope. That's a really good thing for us to wrestle with today in church. And I know you react a certain way to it. I mean, we're not going either direction there. I know you react to it. I know you have a feeling deep inside about it. And that's okay too. Honestly, is it any of my business how you spend your weekends? Is it any of my business what you post on the internet? What you do in the privacy of your own home? How you spend your money? Do you need anyone's permission, much less mine, or approval to just do you? To be true to yourself? I mean, all of us know people like me, pastors, places like this, churches, and they don't have a flawless track record. The institution itself, hypocritical, scandalous. Many people like me using God's name to get money, sway votes, move culture in a certain direction, then commit adultery, then commit abuse. People like me in places like this, in front of people like you, doing things in the name of a certain thing to get my truth to line, or get your truth to align with mine. I don't really blame Glennon for wondering if truth is to be found not out there, but in here. I mean, do you? I mean, when you look out, and we can align ourselves with so many truths. The world offers a bunch. The church offers a bunch. I mean, within the church context itself, there's so much offered as far as truth goes. It's why you have multiple denominations. It's why you have Southern Baptists, Independent Baptists, Fundamentalist Baptists, Baptists who don't like other Baptists, and then there's snake handling Baptist. There's one more way up there. It's crazy. And that's just in the Baptists. Brenda said this morning there was some cult. We were talking about a cult, and I was like, cult. That's exactly right. Cult is where you get culture. Culture creates cults, and then within the cults, Baptist is a cult, and then Baptists have multiple cults inside of their cult. How crazy is that? I read a story one time of a guy who got stranded on a shipwrecked, or he was shipwrecked on an island, and he got rescued like 7 years later. And his rescuers wanted to tour his island, so he's like, oh yeah, I had built that with my hands, I built that with my hands. He goes, and this is my church. He's like, but this is just where I came and worship. And the rescuers are looking around, and there was this dilapidated place over in the corner. He goes, well, what's that? He goes, that's my old church. He was alone, built this church, couldn't get along at that church, went to another. Got it, there you go. I know, 75 feet from here to there. It takes a while. But it's true. You and I have some truths, and we believe them, and we operate within them, and we're not going to argue them, right? Because they're our truths are our truths, and you can't argue with my truth because it's true. And I can't argue with your truth because it's true to you. Is that right or is that wrong? Don't answer that out loud, because that would be your truth. I'm just going to tell you a story. Because before we dismiss the church and all of its spiritual authority, and I want to look at this story. Because it turns out these things we hear in the modern America today ain't new. Sorry to tell you, the millennials didn't come up with this. Neither did the baby boomers or the X-Geners or the Y-Geners or none of y'all. This has all been around. So when y'all look out at our culture and think, oh, it's gone to hell now, it's already there. It's already there. Back when God doing his redemptive grace, before he even thought about, before Jesus was a twinkle in his mama's eye, it was already dawn. Started out bad and then it got worse. Book of Judges, chapter 19. It says this in one of the verses. That's not the one. I think it's 25, verse 25. In those days, Israel had no king. And it's that phrase right there. No, go back. Okay. This is the one. Everyone did as they saw fit. I know. You're good. You're good. Everyone did as they saw fit. Write that down. Because that's Judges 21, 25. It's the last part of the verse. First part of the verse says, in those days, Judges had no, the world had no king, or there was no king. Yeah, there you go. Israel had no king. Everyone did as they saw fit. So there wasn't any spiritual authority. Now, the king was the spiritual authority. There was still government, there was still all that thing. But we're talking about king. So in the day of the judges is where we're at now, because we're reading the book of. That meant there were over Israel. Now, the judges, though, they were just the lawgivers. It was just law. You remember Deborah 2 Sundays ago? We talked about she was judging for the people. She was judging disputes just about, he stole my cat. I want it back. And so she would judge that, right, the dispute. Not spiritual judgment. Deborah did not sit and say, okay, God would want you to do this, and God would want you to do that. That was prophets. That would become kings, but not judges. In the judges, everyone did as they saw fit. In reality, Israel had no king, so they did whatever the truth inside them told them to do, individually. Sounds cool, doesn't it? Sounds like a great way to live. Nobody telling you what to do, nobody getting up in your business. You ain't got to be accountable to nobody or nothing. Just you and God out there under the oak tree, figuring out what you want to do today. If he don't answer your prayer right away, you just do what you want to do. He'll fix it later. In those days, they did what they saw fit. Now, back in Judges, I'll tell you a story, and then I'll kick them up in there in a minute. Back in Judges 19, there's a Levite. So you can put that up and just, I don't know if I'm going to read it, so just, this is one of those, I'm going to throw stuff into the air, and you catch up. Is that okay? Kind of in order. Levite was like a person who's assistant to a priest, right? We believe that the Levite tribe of Israel brought about the entire church structure, right? So the Levites became priests, or they had, at that time, priest sub-workers, which would have been, at that point, always a Levite. Now, this guy, just this Levite, had a concubine, which was kind of like a wife, but more like a really long-term girlfriend. So she had everything but the money. Here's why. Priests couldn't technically get married. Follow? So the priests couldn't get married, so they found a loophole to have sex with women. And they called them concubines. So they didn't get any inheritance, they didn't get to claim wife, but they could be a concubine. It worked. They were just doing what they saw fit. There wasn't really anybody else to say, okay, just because you found a loophole doesn't mean it's right. Just doing what he saw fit. Doing what he saw fit. And this concubine cheated on the Levite, and she slept with another guy. Now, should be okay because she wasn't really married, right? It was totally legal. Totally within even God's law at that time to them, legal. Weren't married. She was free to do what she wanted to do. Now, as you can imagine, the Levite, not cool with it. Because she cheated on him, and then she went home. She goes all the way south to a little town called Bethlehem. And she moves back in with dad. Isn't that what kind of happens? Things go awry, move back home. Word of advice, if your kids ever move out, change your address. And state. But this Levite wants the relationship to work. I mean, this chick's hot, I guess. Love of his life. Can't marry her because he's a priest, but wants it to work. So he takes off on his donkey. This morning we were reading about Jacob and Laban heads off in hot pursuit. The New Living Translation says, on his camel. So this guy sets off on his donkey in medium pursuit. Heads down to Bethlehem and just spends days and days. If you read that story, it's funny because the father-in-law, I think the father-in-law wants to get rid of the daughter, but he doesn't really know if he can, and it's just weird. It takes him like a couple of days, and every day they try to leave, and the father-in-law's like, oh, just stay another night. But we know that, so he went down there, and he's dealing with the dad, and at the end of that, he and the concubine leave. They're headed back to where they came from. But at the end of this first day of travel, they need to find a place to stay. But there's a problem. They're near Jerusalem, and at that time, Jerusalem was occupied by pagans. You know, people living by another truth than they were living by. They were worshiping idols, not having sex with as many people as they could find and finding a loophole for God's law, just worshiping idols. You know, totally way more sinful. And the Levite says, no, we don't really need to stop here. We need to push on a little further. If you, anybody, when you were younger, when I was younger, we came to Florida, right, on vacation. And then when you left, or even when you were headed down, it would get really late at night, and you would want to stop someplace, but you didn't want to stop in certain places, right? I know I've done it. I'm sure my dad was doing it then. And you would look around and you go, no, we can make it 30 more minutes. Now, we didn't have Google and Siri back then, and now, you just look at your navigator and go, okay, find us someplace that's not, looks like a death trap. So that's kind of what they're doing, right? He's like, let's push on forward. Let's get close to our people. Let's get close to an Israelite place. Let's get there. It will be safer. So, that's what happens. They get to a city called Gibeah, where God's people, the good people, live. Those living by the same truth that they're living by, basically. And that's what he does. So they go into this town, and it happens to be a town inside of the state of Benjamin. Y'all remember the 12 tribes divided up into 12 different areas? This would be so pick it out states. This would be the state of Benjamin, the city of Gibeah. And they're sitting in the middle of the town, and this old guy comes up and says, hey, what's going on? What, y'all traveling through? Yeah, we are. We got everything we need, we're good. And the guy goes, no, come to my house. Come, nobody else had visited with him. Nobody else had offered. He's just like, y'all come to my house. Come stay with me. And the Levite and concubine says, okay, that's fine. So they go, and the guy has prepared a feast, had some wine, hanging out by the fire, feet are up, breaking some bread, exchanging truths. And there's a knock at the door. And this guy goes to the door, looks out through his peephole, I don't know, picks up his Ring video doorbell. And there's a mob out there, and they say, bring out the man who came to your house so we can have sex with him. Because evidently that's okay in the state of Benjamin. Because they've decided that's okay in the state of Benjamin, in the city of Gibeah. And he says, come on, don't do this vile thing. No, friends, you're my buddies. Don't do that. He's my guest. he's a friend. I mean, if he lived here, sure, but he's visiting. We don't want to jump off that cliff right off the bat. But he says, I got an idea. This will be okay. Here's my virgin daughter and his concubine. Take them. Do what you want. But as far as my guest, don't do that. This is okay. This is not okay. Take these two girls. Have your way. Leave my male friend alone. Somewhere in the back of all those guys' mind that are out there, they say, okay. I mean, it's not as good as what we wanted, but we'll take it. And so this book that we're all living by here says, was that all of them? Is there one more? Yeah, but the men would not listen to him. But they did. I don't get that verse. The men would not listen to him. So the man took his concubine and sent her outside. And notice the virgin daughter didn't have to go. Evidently, there was some sort of exchange. There was some sort of debate. No, we don't want your virgin daughter. We really want your guest. But we can't have your guest. We don't want your virgin daughter. We'll just take the concubine. Sent her outside, and they raped her and abused her throughout the night. And at dawn, they let her go. Because they're good people. I mean, nobody does that in daylight. You only do that at night. Make note of that. At dawn, they let her go. It's actually kind of important. Kind of. Then it says, okay, first of all, that's messed up. At some point, hopefully some of y'all are out there going, that's messed up. What's that even in here? Wow, those people back then, they were bad. Bad people. Bad people. Because that part is messed up. It's not even the messed up part of the story. You remember all whacked up? Don't forget that. When her master got up in the morning and opened the door of the house and stepped out to continue on his way, just like it's another day, apparently not caring one bit about her, there lay his concubine fallen in the doorway of the house with her hands on the threshold. Like, I almost made it back. He says, get up, long way to go. But there was no answer. You know why? She did. Then the man put her on the donkey and set out for home. Just another day in Benjamin. That's what happens when you're in Benjamin. And that Gibeah place in Benjamin, it's rough. He should have known better. I mean, come on. Happens all the time there. Why would he even stop? Any of that come into your mind at all? Or is it just messed up? When he reached home, he took a knife and cut up his concubine, limb by limb, into 12 parts. I did some math. That's all I'm going to say. And he sent them into all areas of Israel. Everyone who saw it was saying to one another, such a thing has never been seen or done. Thanks, Captain Obvious. The first mailing of body parts happened here. Chop, 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 UPS. Off. So an arm went to Judah. Maybe a big toe went to Simeon. A piece went back to Benjamin. He's one of the states. 12 pieces went out. Just imagine, they said. We must do something. So speak up. They're outraged. Finally, something had happened that these people were upset about. Not the pieces being cut up and sent. That's not the bad part. Evidently, along with the pieces was a note. I was in Gibeah, Benjamin. This is what happened. And I've lost my concubine that I couldn't marry because we decided you can't marry. And they raped her and killed her, and I cut her up and sent her to you. It's messed up. So these bloody packages arrive in the mail. And even Israel, who's pretty far from God, you can imagine. We're talking about God's people here. It would be like the church receiving a piece, okay? Outrageous. And they say justice has to happen. So they call the entire country, the entire army of Israel, 400,000 soldiers gather, and they march to Gibeah Benjamin. Except Benjamin, not going to let this happen. And if you read this story, you keep reading, I think this is around chapter 20. Benjamin gathers some army, and he gathers about 26,000 people. So it's 26,500, I think, to 400,000. And a fight ensues, as you can imagine. And over the course of it, ends up in a bloodbath. Duh. And the 26,500 are reduced by 26,100. I think that's right. My math isn't right. I wasn't even homeschooled. Anyway, y'all figure the math out. It's actually in there. If you want to read those stories, all the numbers are in there. We end up with 600 Benjamins left. You got to admit that's funny. And they call them Benjamites, but I just call them Benjamins. So we have 600 Benjamins left. Now, and 400,000 was reduced a little bit. There was a little bit of decent fighting in the first couple of days or so. So all of Benjamin is wiped out. The Bible tells us that the entire state of Benjamin is wiped out. The Israelites, the good Israelites, ran in and killed all the women, the children, and all but 400 of the men. Wiped them off the face of the earth. 600 of them ran into the woods or into the desert and hid. The rest of the army goes back. They go back home and they gather together, so they're having a post-war meeting. And somebody speaks up and says, this ain't right. There's supposed to be 12 tribes. We're going to have to rebuild Benjamin. We got to do it. We just got to. There's no way we can do it. I mean, the stories. I mean, get this. Somebody's sitting around and they're like, okay, the story goes that 12 tribes are going to exist through all eternity. And we just killed off one of them. We got to do something. We got to put this thing back together. So we're down to 11. It's like tomorrow you wake up and instead of 50 states, there's only 49. And everybody's like, oh no, I mean, we didn't like them, but it kind of feels weird not having them. So let's make a new one. That's what they decide to do. But here's a trick. They had made this truth inside of themselves, this oath, this law, that said that they would not marry into Benjamin. Because over the course of this, we're getting ready to fight, nobody marries Benjamins. So they created a law that now they're trying to figure out a way they can get back, because that's how life works. When you back yourself into a corner, you got to find a way to get out of that corner. And you're willing to bend the law if you have to. Right? So one guy goes, wait, all we got to do is find one of our towns, just any city, that didn't participate in the war. who didn't take the oath. And we'll build Benjamin out of that. You know what the other 10, you know how they voted? Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's good stuff right there. Yeah. Yeah, that'll work. Absolutely. Let's see. Nobody's going to be mad. Nobody breaks their oath. Yeah, let's do that. So they head off. The name of the town is, and I wrote some of these down. Help me. Jabesh. Yeah, the city of Jabesh Gilead. So they march to Jabesh Gilead, and they kill all the men, the married women, and the children. Who's left? Virgin women. Because you can't marry a non-virgin. That would be bad. Yeah. Don't do that. Oh yeah. God gets really mad when you marry a non-virgin. Kill their parents so that he can't argue, perfectly fine. So here's the problem. They only found 400 virgins, and they have 600 men. You ain't got to be a whiz to figure out 200 men are really pissed off. I didn't write this story. So don't look at me with your righteousness and go, why are we talking about this in church? Because it's there. It gets worse. So they all return to the land of... Okay, wait a minute. I think that's right. Jabesh Gilead, 200 bachelors left. And then someone comes up with the most disturbing idea of them all. See, it just keeps going. Men soldiers said, look, there's an annual festival of the Lord in Shiloh. It's a religious holiday. It could be considered, Easter. That's fine. Doesn't really matter. It's north of Bethel, east of the road that goes from Bethel to Shechem, and south of Lebanon. So they instructed the Benjamites, saying, just the 200 bachelors, because everybody else has something to do. And they say, go and hide in the vineyards and watch. When the young women of Shiloh come out to join in the dancing, this is why Baptists don't dance. They learn their lesson. Rush from the vineyards, and each of you seize one to be your wife. Now, this town had actually partaken in the oath, okay? So they're getting ready to come up with a loophole on the fly to watch. Then return to the land of Benjamin with your virgin over your shoulder. When their fathers or brothers complain to us, we will say, do us the favor of helping them, because we did not get wives for them during the war. You will not be guilty of breaking your oath because you didn't give your daughters to them. You're just letting them get stolen. So that's what they did. The fathers, the brothers, they complained. And they said, don't worry, your oath isn't broken. Don't worry about that. Here, this is how you get around it. And they said, okay. I'll go back home. Party's still going on. So 200 girls are headed to church. And some well-meaning Benjamins steal them. Shoulder, home. No one's the wiser. No real laws have been broken. Nobody can really fuss at each other because what they decided to do was okay to them. The Bible says, then they returned to their inheritance, which means all the way back home, and rebuilt the towns and settled in them, the Benjamins. The Benjamins went back to the state of Benjamin, to the multiple cities within Benjamin, and just decided to start over. 600 men, 600 virgins, and now some kids. At that time, the Israelites left that place and went home to their tribes and clans, each to his own inheritance. That's the rest of them. So the rest of Israel stayed until the Benjamins got it figured out and could feel like the tribe had been reorganized, so to speak. Then they all went back to their own place, and now everybody's happily ever after. Everybody's back at home going, it's good. It's good. There's 12. There's 12. As long as there's 12. No matter what, there's 12. And then we're back to that one last verse in the book of Judges. How the entire sad, disgusting story ends. In those days, Israel had no king, and everyone did as they saw fit. Spiritual people. God followers. People who knew what God said, did what they wanted to do. Just did what they wanted to do. And answered to themselves. You read Judges 17 through 21, you find people who are praying, you find people who are observing every freaking religious festival they can find. They're gathering when they're told to gather. They've got the 10 Commandments stuck in their front yard. I mean, it's everywhere among, that's God's people, the outsiders would say. Oh, that's the people that believe in God over there. That's what they were known as. And yet within, they're doing what they want. But is that like you? I want you to take this away from the story. Spirituality. Trying to believe in God, trying to follow Jesus without authority. Without some sort of structure. Without some sort of oversight is idolatry. You become God. You. Psalm is very clear, do not become an island unto yourself. What it means is you cannot be the end-all, be-all to this God thing. Yes, you are carrying around the creator of the universe inside of your heart. You own him. Your space is you, and he lives there, and he is the ultimate authority. But you can't be the only one deciding. You can't come up with this stuff. You do not have the capacity to say in 100% confidence, this is what I believe to be true. In just this silo of you to eternity. Because we'll idolize the things that we feel and think. What we think is okay will become our new idol. What we feel is right, the direction our life is going, as long as we feel it's right, will become the idol. And that is if you read every time one of these stories starts, that is the sin that Israel committed. In the book of Judges, this time in Israel's history, they are literally living by the idol of themselves. They are making the decisions based on what they believe individually God would say is okay. And then they're coming together and they're saying, this is what I believe God would say. And they would just a little bit of conversing. And they just found a way to put it all together and make it all happen. Because not one person could look at the other and go, that doesn't make any sense. Every time you read that story, they were coming together and nobody would say, are you out of your mind? How does this even make sense to you? Well, I believe that's what God said. I believe that's the crack talking. I believe that's whatever talking somebody should have said, but they didn't because they had decided they knew what was best for them, and if they did that to anybody else, then they would expect somebody else to do it to them. Yes! Piper imitates me. You should all be so smart. Whoa, that's cold. If you know the answer to that question, if you know why Jesus and the apostles and the prophets continually rejected that kind of thinking, you'll never find Jesus embracing that. You'll never see the apostles just going, oh, I think this would be okay. Other than Judas, he hung himself. You'll learn to embrace a community of faith. You'll learn to embrace spiritual authority, whatever that looks like. Wherever that comes from, there will be a spiritual authority in life. Some people, it's the Bible. For me, you have to go back. You don't ever start with the Bible. That's silly. Because if you just start with the Bible, it becomes your idol. You start with the person of Jesus, and you let him speak through the Bible back to you, to himself. And it becomes the authority. For some of you, like, I can't read the Bible. It doesn't make any sense to me. You find a number of people who are your community of faith, and you sit, you talk about things, and you go, this is what I'm thinking. And you have enough people in your circle who love you so much to say, you're a freaking idiot. Because that makes no sense. You can't, no. Because if you don't, you get this. You get what they got. Did you get families destroyed? Well, I just don't love her anymore. I should be able to go and have love. And you find men who go out and marry 3 or 4 other women because they have nobody in their life going, you're an idiot. Dude, you're the problem. You can't find one person. You're the problem. Well, every time I do this, this happens. Hello, Albius. Maybe stop doing that. But it's okay. It's okay for me to do it. I can't really, I don't feel a burden in my soul to where I should stop. Yet all these consequences didn't clue you. Booga. This is what happens when you counsel other people. I'm just going to tell you. Because I get all your stories. I sit across from people every week and just want to... I mean, if I were to cuss, I'd be like, what the hell is wrong with you? But I can't say that, so I don't ever get to say it. But in my heart, I hate this phrase, so don't ever say it to me. And if you say it to me, just know, I want to punch you. I just feel in my heart it's okay. Well, do you know what Jeremiah said about that? Who's Jeremiah? Jeremiah chapter 17, he says, the heart, your heart, my heart, is what? Deceitful above all things and beyond what? Who can understand it? Evidently you. Well, my heart says it's okay. And I have Jesus living there. That's not what Jeremiah says. Jeremiah says you still got your old heart. And Jeremiah says your old heart is still going to be deceitful. You're not actually exchanging hearts. You're just putting something new in your heart. But your old heart is still there. Paul says, I can't get away from this old guy, his old heart. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Maybe quit following it. Wouldn't that help? Maybe quit coming up with your own cockamamie ideas about what God would actually be if you had created him. Maybe quit making up the rules as if you actually made up the rules. You see, I don't like rules. I don't. But what I really should say is I don't like man-made rules. You know why? Because God already made enough. And then he put a guy inside of me, literally emboldened me with the Spirit of himself, with every single rule attached that he wants me to follow. And then he wrote it all down. And then he put it in everybody else who's a believer and gave me the ability to figure out if you're a moron or not, based on what he believes and what he believes inside of you, and then it starts to mesh. That's how this thing's supposed to work. That's why when you read the Bible, you don't read the Bible and go, nah, that's wrong. Nah, we should probably throw that out. I mean, he knew we were going to want to do that, and that's why he put in there, don't take anything out. You know, all the stuff that I'm going to tell you, don't ignore any of it. It's all good for you. Every bit of it is good for you. In some way, it's all for your benefit. Man, I know this is heavy to think about. But it is. See, no matter if I'm looking at church people, unchurched people, when we separate ourselves from a community, when we stop feeling the need to offer an explanation or to get permission from God himself through the book, we end up making 100 exceptions to the 10 commandments. Just the 10. There's a ton more if you want to follow them, I promise. But just the 10. I'll say, do you make your own exceptions to God's rules? Do you look at the rule that you know is there and go, but not like that? Let me ask you. God says you shall have no other gods. And you want to say, well, I don't bow down to any statues. I'm not like Gideon. I don't make stuff. But what about where you spend all your money? What about the thing you actually cannot live without? Person, place, or thing. Is that not? Is that not something you've put up? Is it not? I don't know. That's getting far-fetched. That's digging a little too deep, preacher. It's not where I spend my money, my energy, my thoughts when I'm just daydreaming. It's not the thing I trust to give me a good life. It's not the thing I fear losing more than anything else. You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God. Well, it doesn't count if you're joking. I mean, God knows what I mean, right? Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. We ain't got to do that. We don't even know if it's Saturday or Sunday. And if you think it's Saturday, you've got a place you can join. And if you think it's Sunday, you got a people to bash. I mean, he doesn't mean literally. He doesn't literally mean that. I mean, if the weather's really good and it's the only day I got off, surely he would want me to enjoy my. We know what Sabbath really means, just not to do the thing you used to do. I got that, but so I can enjoy the one day. I don't have to gather. Listen, this is why we have online church. And if you're watching on the day, I'm talking probably to you. I can have church at home and still, I can have my cake and eat it too. I'm worshiping. You know I watched. I sent the check. He doesn't really mean all the time. He means as long as I'm not out of town. I don't have to do that on my vacation. Come on. God's not that crazy. Come on. He wants He wants me to enjoy myself. I mean, God really wants me to think about my happiness more than I think about his rules. Surely. That's the God I serve. I don't know if it's the God you serve or not, but this is the God I serve. And particular things, they're not necessarily sins to everybody. I mean, let's come on. How could they be? In some ways, that's right. The stuff that the world has made up that's a sin, you can't call that a sin. Okay, is that why you did it? We're going to tie it together and I didn't even know it. Did anybody vote for polygamy? Other than Mally. Sanctioned by law. There you go, okay. I got that. There you go. So, good example. I'm going to give you an example, and then we're going to move on. You go meet somebody who has multiple wives. If you just go meet one. You will tell them it's a sin. We talked about it in Sunday school. We looked at the Bible. No such thing. You're not going to find anywhere in the Bible where polygamy is a sin. It's not there. You can get all singular with your grammar and try to think that it was one wife, one husband, one wife. That's not a biblical thing. Okay, I believe it. Don't be throwing stuff at me. She knows I believe it. But it's not a sin thing. It's not a sin. Plenty of places all across this world, multiple wives. God following multiple wives. And you can't argue with it. It's not sin. So you can't take something just because you don't believe it and call that a sin. Now, what Dave did, very good loophole. As long as it doesn't break the law, because now I've got this law in the Bible that says always obey man's law unless it overrules one of God's laws. And so here's our brain. Can I do it? It's not against the law. It's not in the Bible. Yep. And that's how we operate. Instead of saying, God, what do you want from me? I bounced it off my spiritual authority people. I've read the Bible. And then God looks at you and goes, don't do it. Okay, no problem. Or God says, do it. Okay. Can we operate that way? Or do we have to box ourselves up? I promise, when you box yourself up, you end up like these guys. You end up with stuff in your box that you had no idea belonged there. And you start to justify things you should have never, ever justified. Every day, it's messed up. Unchurched people, church people, religious people, spiritual people put an asterisk after every single commandment, and we think it's about our exception. Without authority, without somebody, without something that says, hey, what are you doing? Or without somebody coming in here on a Sunday morning and not just offering nice suggestions for you. You'll end up doing as you see fit, but God won't agree. Pastor Dale Davis wrote this thing about a commentary on the book of Judges, and he said this. I'm almost done. Because y'all are already looking at your watch going, listen, we can only be at church for 40 minutes. I don't know what you're thinking. The problem is not sins, but sin. The Declaration of Independence, that declaration, whether stated viciously or politely, that's the sin. I am an independent Christian. I'll be the first one to tell you, I hate religion more than anybody. But I don't dislike the organization of people that God put on the planet that I can call fellows. And I don't dislike the Bible, who wrote, and I don't care what version you read, don't matter to me. God's big enough to talk to you through it. I don't care if it's digital. I don't care if you wrote it with your papyrus and you only write with quill in your notes. Whatever. Make it. You know, some of us hate church and we might kind of put up the facade. It's all hypocrisy. It's all about greed. Deep down, I'm guessing there's something more. You don't want somebody telling you what to do. You don't want any pastor, any church, any family, any doctrinal statement, any book telling you how to live. Because, you know, some of us have stated it more politely. We post about love. We post about tolerance. We post about living your truth, accepting everything into your life. Now, this really does not have anything to do with anybody else. What I have found is if what I want you to be tolerant of me, I'm just trying to do what I want to do, and I'm rubbing up against some things, and instead of even asking, see, I don't even ask. When I really want to do what I want to do, I don't even ask if you're right or not. I don't even give you the time of day to possibly speak truth back. I will immediately build my wall. That's what these guys did. So, where's the good news? You see, anytime I read the Bible, anytime I read the Old Testament, I go, where's the good news? Where's Jesus in this? Where is the, and then they all lived happily ever after? You know where it's at in the book of Judges? Nowhere. Nowhere. It's not there. So here's the good news. Thank God for Ruth. Ruth's the next story. Thank God there's another story. Because you see, in Ruth, it's this beautiful romantic love story that you're just like, and it starts in the day of Judges. Same time. There's Ruth. And Ruth marries a man named Boaz. And they have a kid named Obed, who has a kid named Jesse, who then has a kid named David. And out of David's house comes a guy named Jesus. That's the good news. There's always more to the story. There's always more from Jesus for your life. There's always an ending that looks like grace, because whenever you're still out there being as stupid as you could possibly be, just like these guys, there's still a Savior waiting to love on you, waiting to get his hands on you, not to shake you like I want to do, but to put his arms around you and love you and go, it's okay to be an idiot. I love you. Let's not be an idiot tomorrow. And then tomorrow, when you're an idiot again, he puts his arms around you and says, it's okay that you were an idiot. I love you. Let's try not to do it tomorrow. And how many days does he do that? Every single one. Because he knows that inside of your heart, you're like, I want to not. And he goes, it's okay. I know you don't want. Because I'm here living inside of you. And I know what it looks like. And when your heart breaks for that woman who's laying on the ground with her hands reached out to the threshold, picture Jesus with his hands stretched out and dying for you. When you picture her being beaten and just ravaged, remember there was a guy who was beaten and ravaged. And then he died on that cross. But he chose to do it. She didn't have a choice. He did. And not only is there a Ruth, but there's 50 more books after it that just tell the story of God loving us and putting us in a place of people and writing down the things that he wants us to see and feel from him. Thank God there's another book, right? Thank God that's not the end of the story. There's another page, there's another chapter, there's another verse in your life. Because see, I know somebody's going to text me this week and they're going to go, I was doing so good, but then I failed. Man, this week sucked, and then it was good. Can I tell you, my week was awesome, and then my weekend sucked. And yet, there's a guy standing there when it all goes down, when it all fails you, when it all feels like it's about to end. He's there with his arms open, saying, it's okay. This is what grace looks like. For all the things the rules can do for us by keeping us on the path, we're going to continually fail, and he's going to be standing there with his arms wide. May you feel that today. May you feel the burden of having to follow the rules. May you be like me, who struggles and doesn't want to but has to. But I'm choosing to because they're better for me. And then when I don't, living in the grace that he died for. That's the rest of the story. The end of that story is that there's another one coming. Stand with me and let's go. Jeremiah wrote the whole book of Lamentations. One of Sherry Ann's favorite verses is, His mercy, His grace is new every morning. Why was it so important that everything stopped in the daylight? Because the mercies are new every day. We realize God's mercies every single day. If you wake up tomorrow, forget about today. If you wake up tomorrow, His mercy is new for you. His grace is applied to you. And if you wake up the next day, it's there again. It's there again. It's there again. And the day you don't wake up, you're there again. You've received the ultimate. Every single morning. In the time of the judges, they did what they saw fit. And their hearts were deceitful among all. Who can conquer it? His mercies are new every morning. The whole story together, a package. Before I pray for you, you're reminding me that I need them to fill that out. Trunk or treat is coming up. Halloween, October 31st. We need you. I don't care. Just put on the box. If you don't know about trunk or treat, we need you. Too many people are going to come through our property to not need you. Tons. So if you can give out candy, put your name on there. If you can provide a trunk, put a check box where it says trunk. If you don't have a trunk, it's okay. We're going to have extra trunks. If you don't want to decorate a trunk, because it's crazy, that's okay. If you don't believe in Halloween, move. I don't know. Halloween's coming whether you believe in it or not. So, bunch of kids, bunch of people, bunch of ways for you to just love on that night. So we need you. So if you'll be in a coffee shop, if you can sign up on there, do that. And then Wednesday night, we'll see you 5:30. We eat and fellowship meal together back in the back, together, right? And then Bible study to follow. Let's pray together, and then we'll go. God, thank you for just a day that we can come in, this day, the day that you made for me to come here, to be with these, to hear this. May I take it and apply it to me. May I hear and do and share. Help us to be who you've called us to be out there. In your name we pray.